lot of millennials and Gen Zs into buy now pay later or credit cards, depending on a lot of debt is something that they are doing. How are you explaining to them that how much is too much?
Airport lounges are overflowing because everyone has a credit card. 7 out of 10 iPhones in India are done on funding.
Wow.
1 out of 3 weddings is done on a loan.
Radhika, if I have to ask you, what will help me achieve that retirement goal? You did talk about mutual fund or an RD. Is mutual fund the starting point? Because you are into this field.
Reality is you will need to have a large amount of equity in your portfolio if you want to build returns, because it is the wealth creating asset class. It's the only asset class in India that has a structural reason to go up. Gold is a commodity. It's done well, but it's a commodity. Fixed income is fixed income. So you need to have some quantity of equity in your portfolio.
How do you explain today in the new age generation, what role does gold play in an equity or in an overall investment portfolio?
So gold is basically to protect you when times are turbulent.
Yeah.
And so while gold has also given good returns over the long run, but definitely it is proven that multiple years, multiple tenures, equity is where your wealth will be created. Gold is basically to protect. So one should definitely have gold, but in the form of investment and not jewelry.
Hello and welcome. You're watching this latest edition of Booked. I'm Sakshi Batra, and today we dive into this very special book of Mango Millionaire, which is written by two of the very special people who are here with us in the studio. One is a very famous face. You've seen her on Shark Tank. She is the MD and the CEO of Edelweiss Mutual Fund, and we have Niranjan Avasthi, who is also the Senior Vice President of Edelweiss Mutual Funds. Warm welcome to Radhika and to Niranjan. Thank you so much for taking the time out, and thank you for writing this wonderful book.
Thank you, Sakshi.
Well, we've talked so much about money in so many of our interviews with us also on India Today on various platforms. But I want to start off by understanding what was your idea of coming up with a book on money making. You start off by dedicating this book to all the Indians who love dal chawal over avocado toast. Could you help us understand what is the idea behind that?
So, I think the line says it all. 95% of personal finance and investing books, we feel, are written for the finance nerd, for people who already understand markets, for people who understand investing. But where is their content for the Aam Janta today? Because the average middle class Indian works very, very hard. He or she commutes long hours.
Yes.
Plugs it in 60, 70 hours a day a week at work, does all that. Money needs to work hard. And what's the starting point for them? What's that thing that teach? And there are podcasts and all of that, but there's no cooking manual. So this was the cookbook for the ordinary Indian man or woman, written in a language where if you don't know the difference between debt and equity, you still can read it.
That's wonderful. So I think the idea or the fundamental idea of this book is to make the idea of money much more simplified than there is in people's minds. But Niranjan, I want to understand with you, with so many years of us talking about mutual funds, investing, saving, financialization of saving as well, why do you think the relationship with money is still very complicated, and still a lot of people find the idea of creating big wealth for themselves very difficult?
The first reason and the fundamental reason is it is not taught. In schools, in MBA colleges, even if you are PhD in a topic, it is not taught. It is something that you have to take efforts and you have to learn yourself. And very few people do it. And that's probably, unfortunately, is the reason why relationship money or even understanding about money, the basics of money is lacking for a lot of people in India, even in abroad, that is the case.
That's the case. So Radhika, if I may ask you to just give us that starting point that you left off at your first point. If somebody who's in 20s or in 30s and still hasn't started, what is that starting point? If somebody has a 10,000, 20,000 rupee per month at their disposal, what do they do with that money?
Actually, and it's a good question, because the problem is when people have 10,000 at their disposal, the first question they'll ask me what's the best stock to buy and what's the best mutual fund to buy. And I think that should be the 13th question. It's like the mutual fund chapter is 13 out of chapter 19 in this book. and we get paid to market mutual funds for a living.
Yes.
So it tells you something about how we think about money. The first thing you need to do is the foundation of money, which is having savings, which is automating your process of savings, which is having a post-tax income, which is making sure you don't have credit card debt, which is knowing what kind of returns you actually need with that money. Are you investing for very long or very short? This is breathing, kicking, all of that in the swimming class. Then you come to understanding, oh, so these are the tools. There's debt, there's fixed income, there's deposits. And then finally you combine and make your thali. We're rushing to make thalis before we
Yeah.
know the body.
Oh my God. So Niranjan, I think something that you are big on is like, start off by at least protecting yourself first against any damage that could incur, especially in a world where everything is getting disrupted by an AI. We are losing jobs at the drop of a hat. So I think one thing that you really talk about is insure yourself
Yes.
adequately before you think about creating a great corpus for your retirement. So
Right.
could you just break that for us, that why is it important for every 20 plus person to also insure themselves adequately?
So it is very important, and I think so the insurance industry is doing a great job by doing Sabse Pehle insurance.
Yes.
And it goes very right, because the first thing is you need to insure your family,
Yeah.
people who are dependent on you, because whether it is your parents, whether it is your spouse, or whether they are your children, you need to. Second is, a lot of people have insurance policy in India today, but 95% of them, as per one data, they are underinsured.
Yes.
So just having a policy doesn't mean you are insured. Having
Most of them have an LIC
Yes.
kind of a policy which
Absolutely.
actually is given to them with the pretext that you will end up earning some money out of
Absolutely,
it.
absolutely. Because a lot of people also think insurance is a waste of money, so let me earn
Yes.
something out of it.
Yes.
So I earn something out of it, which means insurance is good and it is not a loss-making proposal. But that's not true. When you and there's been a lot of talk about keeping insurance separate and investment separate. It is for a reason. It is for a reason because insurance is not to profit.
Yes, so something, Radhika, that you pointed out, I think, and Niranjan, you also pointed out that money matters are not taught in school or colleges.
Yeah.
The first place that you actually, hit across is when you have to suddenly do the documentation for your
Yes.
employers, and you have to file your taxation, and only then you start to think of saving, just to save some taxes,
Yes.
without thinking that whether it's meeting your goals,
Yes.
etc. or not. So for insurance also, either it is for tax saving for
Yes.
ATC, or like you said, to earn money. So it's not the starting point. So can I ask you one thing, to just one line, if you could just help? Every 20 plus person has to get insurance, both life and health. Is that important?
Absolutely.
And what should they ideally understand by adequate insurance is what
So
they
there
have.
is a simple calculation. Will not go into detail.
Sure.
On our website mangomillionaire.in, we have given an Excel calculator. Go and use it. And even in that calculation, if you feel 1 crore is enough, go for 1.5 crore, because there is something called lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
Your lifestyle will change. Today 1 crore you will feel is adequate, but maybe after 5 years it is just peanuts for you.
Absolutely.
So go for maximum insurance amount initially, because that will keep your premium low and also cover a lot of your pre-existing disease that you
Yeah.
keep getting in this kind of lifestyle. So very
Absolutely.
important to get insurance, both health and life, at the moment you start earning.
Absolutely. So that's one point taken care of. Now, Radhika, coming to you, you did mention about credit cards.
Yeah.
And that's something that we are dealing with at this point in time, especially with millennials and with Gen Zs. There is this entire burden of affording a luxury lifestyle that everybody is faced with, be it affording an international trip or a vacation every year to show off the world on your gram, that you are actively traveling at various places, plus affording maybe a luxury bag for yourselves, or shoes or clothes. That's also turned a lot of millennials and Gen Zs into buy now pay later, or credit cards, depending on a lot of debt is something that they are doing. How are you explaining to them that how much is too much?
Well, so it's crazy, right? Airport lounges are overflowing because everyone has a credit card. 7 out of 10 iPhones in India are done on funding.
Wow.
1 out of 3 weddings is done on a loan in this country. So, we quickly have a problem looming. And I sit on webinars and young people will actually write, ma'am, why are you talking about investing? I'm stuck in a debt trap. So,
Yes.
you know, it's not that all debt is bad. We have this very black and white way of coloring things. We've tried to differentiate between what is useful debt and what is dangerous debt. And debt is a tool. So if you're using debt to build an asset, a home, I studied on a student loan, that's okay because it's increasing, it's productive debt. But if you're using debt to buy an engagement ring or to buy diamonds or, you know, to do these things, then it's debt that's not for a need, it's for some kind of want, and that is dangerous debt. The other thing is, even if you are buying a home loan or doing a home loan, there is a certain amount of debt that is good and that is manageable, and there is a certain amount of debt that is dangerous. So we've talked about frameworks and ways you can calculate, am I taking too much debt? Because ghar khareedne ke time, the first question you ask is, how much EMI can I handle?
Yes.
And the point is, personal finance should never be a source of mental load.
That's very important. Now, of course, debt is something that obviously is a longer topic and we will not delve too much into details. We have to cover quite a bit of ground here. But I think our viewers have got that starting point of understanding whether your debt is coming from need or want. That's the starting point that you really need to understand. Now, let's talk about, where does the money go into? If you have money at your disposal right early, we say invest early. But how early is something that again we question. Because the moment you start off, you already feel you are too late and you have to just cover a lot of ground to get to a goal. So you tell me, when it comes to investment, what do you tell a 20-something or 30-something person, where does that money for investment go?
So, I mean, I meet a lot of 20-year-olds who are like, YOLO, I have to go to the Coldplay concert next week. How can I even save? And then I tell them, well, why are you paying taxes? You know, because you still have to go to the concert, but you can't get out of paying taxes. So again, we put numbers to this. And the idea was not, we've been young people, okay? The idea, I bought a Louis Vuitton bag when I graduated from college because I was sick of being on loan. So we know what that's like. The idea is to nudge people into habits in their 20s. So we've got this 10, 30, 50 framework, and you know, you can look it up in the book. But essentially, we're saying if you're 20, just start by saving 10% of your post-tax
10%,
income.
that's it.
That's amazing. If you can do that, you know, if you feel this is too much, just save 5. Just pat yourself on the back because you've inculcated a habit, and do it via an SIP or an RD because it's like tax deducted at source, savings deducted at source. It's automated.
Okay.
It's re-looking at the math. The math you always do is income, then tax, then kharcha, then savings.
Okay.
Flip savings first and then do kharcha.
All right.
That you can do by automating it. And then, of course, when you're 30 and 40, the framework will tell you life gets a lot more serious. So you've got to take up those numbers to 30% of post-tax and 50%. But when you're 20, if you can just start a habit of saving, you know, you'll learn.
Okay, so 10% is still looking very affordable, that, you know, you can manage a 10% out of your savings for your investing goals. But will it really help me create a very big goal, Niranjan? A big corpus, something that I'm aiming for, maybe crores of money. Will that small amount really help?
See, it is not about how much you want to create a corpus. It is how long you can do that and how long you want to do it. So if someone is trying to save for retirement, at the age of 20s, in his 20s, he has at least 20, 30 years ka runway. So it's long enough. Why 10%? Because a lot of people don't do even 10%. They feel that I will start saving or investing only when I can save 50% of my salary.
Yes.
And I've seen some people just go crazy and, you know, save each and every penny. Those years are also to enjoy your life, right? So start with 10. If you're doing 20, it's great. But minimum start with 10. So it's more about inculcating that habit, then go to 30, then go to 50. But a lot of this is about being, you know, creating that habit actually.
Creating that habit.
We've got a lot of feedback from the reviews of the book, especially the millennial and Gen Z kids of the world, that the finance world tends to scare them. You don't start an SIP, the world will end. You know, stop going to concerts and do an SIP on every holiday. We don't want to scare you. And nobody likes, millennials and Gen Z people are smart. They don't want to be scared. So we don't want to force you. We want to be very middle path in nature. We want you to enjoy your life, but we also want you to build good habits.
Absolutely, but there's also this concept of retire early,
Yeah.
and that's what everybody wants to probably hustle to do. Maybe
Yeah.
apart from a job, create many sources of income so that you save as much
Yeah.
to retire at 40. How realistic is that goal of retiring at 40?
Yeah, I get financial, there's this whole fire thing, and I know
Yeah.
there are like this barista fire and all this stuff that goes. I get the FI part of it. I don't get retire early. I mean, I don't know if you have a life expectancy of 80, what you're going to do idle for 40 years of your life, because I truly enjoy my work, and my husband says I
Yes.
would kill someone if I retire. But I think financial independence, the goal at 40 maybe, is that money is not a reason for you to work under duress. It's not a reason to tolerate a really unhappy, or really bad boss, or like be miserable going to work every day. So if that's retire early, then maybe that's what it is, and maybe that's realistic. And I think if you do start working and doing this in your 20s, can you cool down and have ability to take more choices by the time you're 40? I think you can do that. I don't know about retire.
Okay, but Niranjan, can you just give us some idea of how much money does one really need to retire early? How does one really calculate that? Because everybody has different goals, everybody has a different way of lifestyle.
Right.
So what is the ideal way of understanding that, okay, at 40, 50 or 60 when I retire, how much money do I really need to, calculate so that I work towards it from now?
See, it's a very important question, Sakshi, because when we randomly talk to people, people have just random figures, 1 crore, 2 crores, 5 crores.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have observed, and I have actually asked people to calculate a simple calculation that, take how much year you want to retire, how much is your current expense, maybe monthly or annual expense, add maybe 5 to 6% inflation to that, add more things like you want to buy a house and all other goals, and then calculate. You'll be shocked to know that people who are trying to save or create a corpus of 1 crore, they ended up with a number of more than 6 crores, 7 crores.
Wow.
So it is very important. There is no one number, because that number would be different from me, for you, for Radhika.
Yes.
You have to sit down and calculate. Again, we have given a lot of calculators in book. We have given an approach. We have also given a simple Excel calculator on the Mango Millionaire website. Go there, spend some time. It won't take more than 5 minutes to calculate this. Even if you Google, there are a lot of retirement calculators. But the fundamental is, take your current expense, add inflation, add other goals to it, and the tenure and how much return you are expecting. Most importantly, do that math. Don't just think
Don't
about
wing it, yeah.
Yeah.
intuitively that how much you want.
Yeah,
So you need
100
to do
crores.
that
I
math.
don't need 100 crores. Probably not.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
I've seen both the extremes.
Yeah.
Where people are just 1 crore, I'll retire, and some people, no, I want 100 crores.
Yeah.
But the reality is somewhere in the middle.
Okay, that's also very interesting. Now, help me understand, Radhika, if I have to ask you, what will help me achieve that retirement goal? You did talk about mutual fund or an RD. Is mutual fund the starting point? Because, you are into this field. So, you can probably help us understand next 20 years, 30 years also, will this rule as an asset class?
See, there are 4 core asset classes here: equity, safe assets of fixed income, gold, and real estate. Real estate, we've talked about in enough detail. Get your primary home. I don't even think that's a investment in the first place. It's an emotional call. So just park that on the side.
Okay.
Now you have these other 3 asset classes, and mutual funds are not an asset. They're a food court. They're a tool to access equity. They're a tool to access debt. They're a tool to access gold. Reality is, you will need to have a large amount of equity in your portfolio if you want to build returns, because it is the wealth creating asset class. It's the only asset class in India that has a structural reason to go up. Gold is a commodity. It's done well, but it's a commodity. Fixed income is fixed income. So you need to have some quantity of equity in your portfolio, but you need to be able to digest that quantity. So I think exposure to the top 250 companies is a must, and it has to be balanced out with exposure to debt and some amount of gold and silver. And if you're early, you can increase the equity quantum a lot more, and as you come towards retirement, start petering it down. So for instance, my mother-in-law is retired. She's super conservative, but she still has 1/3 equity. And
Wow.
yeah. But that's okay, because you retire at 60. life expectancy is 80 to 90. You spend 20, 25 years of your life in retirement. So this myth that retired people need to be sitting on a bunch of FDs is actually a bit of hogwash. Right?
Wow, so that's a wonderful point. A lot of our viewers would also be, say, 50 plus or 60 plus, and they would want to know whether we are late to investing in equity.
No,
They're
no,
not.
because you have 20 years. And then, and again, we've talked about this, like my mother-in-law, if you've done this right, you can use smart tools to let retirement be a source of joy because you generate quarterly income or monthly income. So she uses a mutual fund tool called an SWP to get income back, which is the need of a lot of retirees. Retirement should be beautiful. It should be not working, not dealing with annoying little kids, and enjoying the money and life that you've built when you have time.
That's wonderful. But Niranjan, a lot of youngsters also feel that, if mutual funds will give me X% of return in some years, direct stocks could probably give me like in a few days. So why not choose direct stocks? And that's when they look at all those social media tips and they go ahead and look at that, and sometimes they get trapped.
So the reason for that is their friends talk about stocks only where they have made money. No one talks about stocks where they have lost money. And there is an illusion that, okay, my friend bought the stock, it's turned a 10 bagger or a multi bagger, but he doesn't know that he might have invested in some other stocks which have just lost his entire wealth. And the illusion is that stocks make much more return. Yes, they do make returns, but when you are a pro at it. For a newbie, it's a no-go. If you don't know swimming, you can't just jump into a lake and say that I can swim. So mutual funds are a way where you can actually build your wealth. And in fact, in India, thankfully we have funds with 30 years, 35 years track record. They have been multi-baggers and they have beaten market. They have generated alpha. I think so. For a newbie, mutual funds are one of the best ways to get into equities.
So, Radhika, I think the one question that also comes in the mind is we have 4,000 plus mutual fund schemes. So, how do you really understand for yourself which mutual fund suits us, and how to select the best mutual fund that there is? Is there one?
Yeah, I mean, that's a legit question. And quite frankly, despite being mutual fund people, even in our own book, we have not covered all the categories of mutual fund because we really think if you have to build a basic thali, most of this is unnecessary. I think, I always give the analogy that there are lots of restaurants in Delhi or Noida, but you don't go eat at every one, right? Everyone goes to the same 8, 10 places. And how do you do that? You have categories. So you have categories of mutual fund that constitute your thali. Typically, there'll be flexi cap, multi cap, maybe one of the hybrid or multi-asset categories, debt, gold. There are 5, 6 categories. Within each category, if you're choosing 2, 3 funds, 2 maximum, a portfolio of 8 to 12 funds does the job for
8 to 12.
Yeah, if you talk to both of us, I don't know about Niranjan, I think I have about 10, you probably have
7.
7, there you go.
In last 20 years, only 7 mutual funds where I've invested.
We're people who do this for a living.
Wow. And in 1 month, we usually tend to see 20, 25 NFOs that actually come in. So we have to just get limited and not get distracted with all those NFOs as well. So just okay, for all our wider audiences, 5 mutual fund categories that everybody must have.
5 categories, I think flexi cap, balanced kind of funds are very good. Mid cap is a very good category. One of the liquid kind of categories and a gold fund. That's pretty much.
That's wonderful. So gold is a good starting point there. Off late, we've actually seen gold really supersede in terms of returns to equities, whereas the bigger concept has been that equity is the better class when it comes to all the other asset classes. How do you explain today in the new age generation, what role does gold play in a equity or in an overall investment portfolio?
So gold is basically to protect you when times are turbulent. And so while gold has also given good returns over the long run, but definitely it is proven that multiple years, multiple tenures, equity is where your wealth will be created. Gold is basically to protect. So one should definitely have gold, but in the form of investment and not jewelry. Maybe ETFs, gold and silver,
so
fund of funds.
Jewelry is not investment.
It's not, because the moment you buy jewelry, you have given away 8% of your returns.
Okay.
3% GST, making charges.
Yes.
The buying selling difference, which is minimum 2% at any given point in time, 8% returns are gone.
Wow.
So the starting point of jewelry is minus 8%. You start with minus 8%. The moment
then what form of gold should I invest in?
ETFs are good. Any electronic form
financial
of gold.
Financial gold.
your gold and silver fund of funds are there in mutual fund form. They are very good. SGBs were good. Unfortunately, they don't come too often now. But yeah, any financial form of gold is very good to have.
Okay. Radhika, you pointed out about home, and you did say that, owning one home is okay, it has an emotional value, but you do not consider it as an investment asset. Why? And there is also this concept about, buying a home versus renting a home as well. How do you explain to today's, day and age people as to how to treat real estate as an investment asset? Because there's also this concept that in the world where a lot of things are getting virtual,
Yeah.
probably this is the only real assets
It's
that
the
will
only
stay.
physical. So look, it's and by the way, in Noida, it was so funny. You mentioned NFOs. I saw a sign for NFO, Noida
Real
Fund
estate.
Offer. So
Oh, God.
Noida is super creative. I mean, it's just amazing. The real estate industry is just genius. But I'll build on what Niranjan said about gold and jewelry not being an investment. I don't think a primary home is an
Okay.
investment because if you were to do the math of a primary home in a spreadsheet, rental yield is not more than 2-3% in most part of India. That's less than FD interest. आप घर कभी खरीदोगे ही नहीं. And I know many people who are fund managers who refuse to buy a home and just rent because of this math. Now there are people like me and people like him and many others who are finance people, and despite being spreadsheet people, we buy a primary home because we ascribe an emotional value. And once there is an emotional value, you don't do mathematics. So figure out if a home has an emotional value for you. If it doesn't, because you don't care, because you have a very transferable job, for whatever reasons, then you get that out of the equation. So primary real estate, I think emotional value, you have to just make sure you can manage the EMI, and we've given some suggestions.
Yeah.
Secondary real estate, however, cannot be emotional value because there is no emotional value. Then you have to treat it like a financial product and evaluate whether it's liquid, what the returns are, what the stamp duty is, then you do that math.
Okay, so but what has been the historical trend so far? Has in real estate been able to prove to be a better asset class than equity at all in any parameter?
It's very confusing, Sakshi, because it depends on the micro market, right? Real estate is so location specific. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll give you our own analog. We sold a property, my husband's father sold a property in Mumbai, and it was a plot in Mumbai. It's very interesting, when he sold it about 10 years ago and he held it for 30 years, we realized there was no capital gains tax on it because you did not beat the rate of indexation.
Okay.
So that answers your question. Now, there will be micro markets where this experience is different.
Yeah.
But on average, I think equity provides you something real estate doesn't, and that is liquidity, the ability
Yeah.
to get your
Very
money
true.
back in 2 days
Yeah.
and to get a partial amount of your money to sell any time. I mean, this is Delhi NCR, I am from here. I've seen so many stories of people who are sitting on property per property, they're asset rich, but they can't liquidate it because the colony has gotten old, monsoon has come and we are dealing with this, a tenant refuses to vacate. So don't underestimate the liquidity.
Absolutely. So that is 3 at least asset classes being taken care of. Let's talk about some of the newer asset classes like crypto. Do you believe in it as an asset class or not? And how would you advise
To
youngsters?
give advice, my views are well known.
So I've read multiple books on crypto,
Yeah.
and I'm still learning.
Okay.
My simple rule, and we've mentioned in the book as well,
Yes.
if you don't understand that asset, how much ever it is making return, don't get into it. Because, decades back, there were tulip bulbs, a lot of asset classes. People used to call them asset classes and investment. No one understood them. If you don't understand, don't invest. If you are pro at it, if you understand, go for it. But as far as Indian context, I don't think so. It is still, very well regulated. You don't know what may happen. There are many scams around it. There were a lot of, coin offers and all. People have
Yeah.
lost money. So it is better to not get into it. At least invest in what you understand and make some returns rather than wiping away your entire capital.
Absolutely. So just as how crypto has come in and we are still figuring out that asset class, going forward 20, 30, 40 years down the line, we still have these primary asset classes, but what might come in future is something that we are not yet prepared for. How do you deal with that unknown?
So I think, you will evolve as an investor. Now, the starting line of this book was dal chawal over avocado toast. And I think 50 years later, structurally, Gold, equity, fixed income will be very, very core asset classes. They probably will be 70-80% of your portfolio. I think every portfolio has the room for the 20% experimentation. For instance, the whole alternative investing industry in India was kind of non-existent. The whole startup opportunity industry was non-existent. So you will see and evaluate it as it comes. And international investing, for instance, was largely non-existent. So I think there is room for all these things. The critical thing is, as he said, is you have to understand what you're doing. No investment opportunity is worth it if you don't understand it, and no investment opportunity is worth doing in a hurry. And as you as an investor evolve and get a lot more sophisticated, if your understanding of Indian equities is good, you've gone through cycles, aap kariye China equities, no problem at all. But as a first investment, probably not.
Okay. Another very key aspect that all of us must understand is that we are dealing with the new age of population that's got into investment at a very early age than the previous generation did. They are very smart, like you pointed out, they are very aware of what's going on, but at the same time, they are relying on, their understanding of finances through Instagram Reels, through 1 minute. They're taking these financial lessons in just 30 seconds or a minute. So how do you deal with that? What would you want to tell them? Are there risks to that as well that they must be aware of? And some of them are actually making their monthly plans with ChatGPT.
Oh my
so
God.
how are you looking at that aspect as well?
See, this generation, Gen Z, we talk about, they are very smart. Fortunately, they are living in a time when there is abundance, which is very different from 90s, and hence their risk appetites are different. So the way we think about money, their ability to think about money, spend it, also earn money is very different. And hence, I think so it's too early to call that what they are doing is wrong. But at the same time, they should also understand that, you should not burn your hands. Don't be in hurry to make returns. Take risk which you can understand and you can manage. So it is very important for that generation as well to understand, especially today we live in a world where we have so much of information, where if you decide to understand about any asset class, it is very easy. In 90s and even 2000, it was very difficult to understand what is mutual fund if someone wants to, wanted to make an attempt.
Correct.
Even NAVs were coming in newspaper once in a week. So we live in a world where there is information available. Make use of it.
Absolutely. But how does one say AI proof one's financial future? Is there something that you're already thinking about it? Do you think there are more than one ways in which AI can disrupt the way you are planning for your finances in future?
I mean, we'll have to see. I think certainly AI gives you a lot of access in terms of analytics. Now, AI search our own funds and a lot of the information is wrong. AI will be trained on the data that we give it, so it will make the mistakes that we do. So, for instance, if you ask for the best performing mid-cap fund, how will AI choose the fund? It will look at the fund with the best recent returns. Is that a great way of choosing? I don't know. It's making human mistakes in an AI-friendly format. So, I think we have to be aware of these nuances. But I think even on the investing side, since we are an asset management firm, AI is a great research tool. So, we're already looking at some of that.
Okay, wonderful. The AI is already being seen as something that's going to be taking over our lives in more ways than one. And of course, there are a lot of risks of job losses that we are already getting used to and prepping ourselves for. Everybody's talking about skilling oneself up, if you have to survive in that new game as well. How are you advising the youngsters who are still very scared about, their jobs being taken away because you don't know how evolved will soon AI will get?
I was a child of 2008. I was fortunate to retain a job, but firstly, for anyone who's gone through this, it's not a moment of shame. I think layoffs should not be looked at. It happens to a lot of people. I've known many people with tremendously successful careers who've had 2-3 layoffs. So I think the first thing I would say is cut the shame around it. Make sure that your skills are relevant. Even if you have lost a job, make sure you're taking the time to learn skills. Always ask yourself, am I learning a skill that's relevant? I'm young, I have time. Am I spending time upgrading skills or watching one more show on Netflix, with no disregard to that? So make sure you're collecting experiences, make sure you're getting the right skills. And if this happens, cut the shame. Because there's a lot of that.
I'm asking you that also because you've been a shark investor,
Yeah.
and you've seen this new entrepreneurial wave that's coming into India, which all of us appreciate. But how many of the entrepreneurs are creating, building businesses that will sustain any sort of disruption? How will you guide a new entrepreneur on its way, on his or her way at this point in time? How to think of businesses that will survive?
So I think in India, and this is a bit of a contra view, there are large business opportunities in every domain because everything from tourism to consumer goods is sort of to mutual funds is unpenetrated. I think if you're focusing on solving a problem for a large group of consumers and you have the ability to execute relentlessly,
Yeah.
you will find a breakthrough. This is what I've seen with entrepreneurs because now I have businesses across jewelry and fintech and sarees and food, and it's finally the ability to crack a problem, be very careful about who your target market is and execute relentlessly. And AI can't do the execution for you. You will have to do that execution
So
yourself.
next decade, which is being seen as India's decade, do you think there will be a lot more opportunity for those who have still not started on their
Oh
entrepreneurial
yeah,
journey?
there's an opportunity every day.
Yeah?
I mean, there are 5 business problems, which is probably another podcast that I wish someone could create a startup for.
Oh God, that's interesting. Okay, Niranjan, what's your last takeaway that you want all our viewers to draw from this book?
See, money is very important in life, but fundamentally, the way you treat money, it treats you back. And hence, start learning how to treat money. That is one fundamental takeaway which someone can understand by reading this book.
Okay, wonderful. And now I have a rapid fire question round for Radhika because she is very good at it and I've done it multiple times, and I hope that this time I'm going to be drawing something more interesting for all our viewers of
Okay,
India
shoot.
Today. Okay. What is the one money rule that you never break?
Do what works for me. Keep it personal.
Okay. What is your guilty financial pleasure?
Financial or non-financial?
Financial.
Financial is startups, yeah. I mean, all the startup investing I do, my husband says is CSR, although I have made money.
And non-financial pleasure, what would that be?
A non-financial pleasure is a combination of jewelry and handbags.
Okay. What is the best money advice that you've ever got?
Best money. Actually, it's not what I've got, it's what I have learned, which is to do things I understand, despite having access to everything, and to be very liquid. I don't like a liquid stuff unless it needs to be a liquid.
Is there a money mistake that you have regretted in life?
Is there a money mistake? In my early days, I took a lot of decisions in a rush with money, and I am a very impatient person. So, try to slow down.
Okay. One investment mistake that you want nobody to make.
Stop looking at the 1-year returns of mutual funds. It is or anything. It is a bad idea. Don't do it.
Okay. If Radhika Gupta was not in finance, what would or who would she be?
Probably a criminal lawyer or a writer.
Oh my God, that's interesting. One myth about getting rich that you want to have everybody bust.
That it can be done quickly. It can't. It takes time. A baby takes 9 months to be born.
Okay. Stocks, real estate, or gold? Pick one for the long haul.
Mutual funds.
Mutual funds. Okay, that was not in the question. All right.
Mutual funds can give you access to most things,
Okay, fine.
including REITs, I guess.
If you could tattoo one money rule on every 23-year-old's brain, what would that be?
23-year-olds start and keep it simple. Just because it's simple doesn't mean it's stupid.
Okay. What is the one money lesson from a Bollywood movie that you want everybody to learn?
Oh, I think it's all the movies. I mean, we talked about Taranampam in the book, but it's this whole thing of debt and the hype around credit cards and like that Saif Ali Khan buying Rani Mukherjee the ring on EMI. I think I've promoted that movie more than the movie because the movie never did well, but I have mentioned that movie so much. Yashraj should give me credit.
Oh my God. Okay. One money rule that you think it's overrated.
Money rule that I think it's all these age kind of rules. Like 75 means you need to be very conservative. 20 means you need. I've seen very aggressive 75-year-olds who are doing momentum investing. It's all cool.
Okay. What's your go-to splurge after a tough day or a week?
All like the spa. The spa.
Okay. Okay. One thing that you regret not investing in.
One thing I regret not investing. I don't say. Okay. What I regret not investing in is I am very much a baniya girl. And till I was 40, I've been a huge cheapster. So, like myself, just enjoying life myself.
Okay.
That is also an investment.
Perfect.
YOLO.
What?
YOLO at
That's the
40.
concept that everybody was talking
YOLO
about.
at 40.
So, the best financial decision that you've ever made for yourself?
Spending money on my education, even though it involved debt,
Yeah.
because it was really an asset.
It was
at
a
the
good
end.
debt.
It was a great asset.
Okay. Most underrated personal finance tip?
Most underrated, I mean, there have been a lot of personal finance tips. I don't know if I have a new underrated personal finance tip. Do you have a good new underrated personal finance tip that I don't have? Man, Sakshi, you have given so much advice that I'm now stumped for advice.
Maybe all.
No, I think do what, genuinely, I genuinely believe, do what works for you. Don't talk to your neighborhood uncle. And there are no tips out there. There are no good stock tips out there. That's a good tip.
Okay, wonderful. Well, you aced it as always. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being with us, Radhika and Niranjan. It's been absolutely a fabulous conversation. I'm sure that all our viewers will enjoy it as much as I did. And I'm sure this book is going to give you many more lessons that you would want to go back to every time again and again. So do go ahead and look at this one up. Thank you so
you.
much for
Thank
writing
you,
in. Will
Sakshi.
there be a Mango Millionaire too?
Oh, maybe we'll write avocado toast for India next.
Oh yes, that
Now
one
that
will
we've
be
done
an
the
interesting
mango,
one.
we'll do the avocado.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Niranjan
you.
and Radhika. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.